All right, man. This is my third time recording this, man. Two audio mess ups. Hopefully this goes through, man. They trying to stop me on the beginning of the new year, but they can't, man. We about to go up. I feel it. So before we get to Goku and DC season 4, episode 5, I want to give a shout out to my two first members of my YouTube, which is John Lane 2016 and Jason 57835. Shout outs to y'all, man. I hope y'all keep joining the memberships, man. It helps the channel, so I can make my videos more, put some more pizzazz to it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my subscribers, man. We hit 1,200 last year, man. We going up this year, man. I feel it. So anyway, man, let's get to it. Superman's X-ray vision pierced the settling dust, moving past Goku's superficial wounds to the terrifying reality that lied beneath. Goku's heart was frantic, a trapped thing, not beating with combat rhythm, but stuttering in a panicked, erratic tachycardia. It was the signature sign of pure terror, a psyche screaming of annihilation. Worse were his muscles. Every major group was chemically flooded, locked in hypertense vibration like steel cables, wound to maximum tension. This wasn't a warrior's poise, but a full-body flinch, primed for a blind, obliterating counterattack. The synergy was the diagnosis. The chaotic heart was a command center in meltdown. The coiled muscles were weapon systems aimed by its broken commands. Goku's unparalleled power was now a runaway system, targeting phantoms that weren't really there. Superman's answer came instantly as Goku's body erupted. With a guttural, unrecognizing scream, Goku launched himself forward. This wasn't his controlled speed, but a feral detonation. The ground beneath his feet vaporized into a crater, and he became a blue and orange torpedo of malice, closing the distance in a blink. To Clark's super hearing, the roar was shredded by rage, but one word broke through, howled with utter conviction: Frieza. It was a vow of annihilation. In Goku's poisoned mind, this was the final stand against the destroyer of worlds. The Phantom's mocking smirk was superimposed on Clark's face. The red cape was Frieza's cruel gaze. The charge held no technique or strategy. It was a pure kinetic fury that cold terror Clark had witnessed now unleashing a catastrophic release. The air ionized around Goku, crackling with a corona of blue-white energy that smelled of sour psychological trauma. This wasn't a warrior fighting. This was a cornered animal striking with the full power of a Saiyan who had believed he had to go all out to save his planet. The air screamed around them. Goku's fists, a comet of misguided rage, slammed into the space where Clark's head had been a nanosecond before. The shockwave pulverized the concrete piling 50 yards behind. To Goku, the effortless evasion was nothing more than a taunt. The phantom Frieza, blurred with contemptuous languor, his features arranged in that infuriating smirk. Is this the famed monkey speed? After all that training, the hallucination purred. Clark's actual shout, Goku, listen to me, twisted into the tyrant's mocking coo. How pathetic. Another lunge, a haymaker that could crater a mountain. Clark weaved under it, the wind of the blow whipping his cape. It's me. It's Clark, he implored. But in Goku's mind, the movement was a graceful, insulting backstep. Frieza examined his gloved fingertips, sighing with theatrical boredom. Too slow, Goku. You're always too slow. You're too slow to save your planet. You were too slow to save your friends, and now you're too slow to even touch me. Each word landed with scalp precision, reigniting the shame of every failure. That Goku roared in a frantic denial, unleashing a wild flurry that shattered the landscape but only brushed the edges of Superman's shifting form. Each miss a confirmation of the Phantom's cruel verdict. Frustration cut through Goku's terror. The Phantom Frieza slipped through every blow, and a new strategy born of countless battles clicked into place. He didn't fire a wild blast, but a focused cerulean lance of energy screaming at the smirking apparition. Superman saw it coming. The trajectory was straight, predictable. A slight shift would send it harmlessly past and into the air. He moved a blur of primary colors, but Goku's hand didn't drop. His fingers instead splayed, then twisted in a sharp, practiced motion, a technique of guiding energy like a living thing. The streaking blast hooked, bending in a physically impossible arc. It spun a vicious U-turn in midair. Clark's senses extended outward had already dismissed the threat. The realization came a split second too late. A shriek of twisted energy behind him. He started to turn. The redirected blast struck him squarely between the shoulder blades. The world dissolved into silent, blinding white before the sound arrived. Then a cocoon ripped across the coastline. The supersonic thunderclap, the concussion wave flattened the dockyard, the remnant, and lifted the river's surface in a shuddering ripple. Sand, water, and pulverized water. Sorry about that. Computer went crazy right there. Sand, water, and pulverized debris shot outward. Erupted into a boiling mushroom, and then it all erupted into a boiling mushroom cloud, glowing from within the angry blue energy. Superman drifted inside the silent, choking debris cloud. His suit smoldered from Goku's last strike, a statement of pure force. Through the gray swirl, he saw Goku standing atop rubble, his chest heaving, steam rising from his skin as his eyes blazed with a terrible, triumphant light. In his mind, he had just struck the ghost of Frieza. Goku. Clark's voice cut the silence. Please stop. It's Clark, your brother. The world dissolved. Goku's head tilted, listening to a phantom voice. A cruel smile touched his lips. His hands came up in a poised defensive gesture. Clark understood too late. In Goku's reality, he was the one that was under attack. Superman's eyes glowed, building to a furnace heat. He needed a shock to pierce the delusion. Twin beams of heat vision lanced forth, meant to etch a line of light at Goku's feet. They never reached him. The beams splashed against an invisible, shimmering wall a foot away. The air solidified into a concave dome of crackling cerulean energy. The heat vision refracted into harmless sparks. The key barrier hummed, unwavering. Inside, Goku didn't flinch. His expression was one of focused contempt. To him, this was Frieza's predictable, cowardly salvo. The barrier was his retort. Superman cut the beams. He floated, staring at the impenetrable wall of his brother's power in psychosis. A cold knot of dread tightened in his gut. The problem wasn't the barrier, but what it meant. The toxin had hijacked more than Goku's rage. It had hijacked his combat genius. He wasn't lashing out blindly. He was stargazing against... He was straight gazing against apparitions, defending against attacks that weren't even there. His every survival reflex was screaming that Clark was the ultimate evil coming to destroy the Earth. Reasoning with a frightened man was one thing. Reasoning with a strategic, hyper-lethal weapon, convinced that you were a cosmic evil, was something else entirely. The battle had shifted from the physical to the profoundly psychological. And Clark feared with a sinking heart that words were now truly powerless. Words had failed. The barrier was a declaration of that. Goku's mind was a citadel, and Clark was the enemy outside. Superman's plan turned clinical, grimly clinical. If he couldn't speak through the fear, he would contain it. He would use his strength to grapple Goku, to hold him until the nightmare burned itself out. He moved without warning. A blue and red streak aimed for his center mass tackle, his hand stretched out to wrap Goku in an inescapable embrace. But Goku, even drowning in his terror, was the superior martial artist of the two. Superman's charge met a vacuum. Goku's body evaporated from the point of impact with a subtle pivot, raising Clark's own momentum against him. As Superman blazed through empty space, a knife-edged plane shot upward. It connected with a precise thud just under Clark's sternum. Not to damage, but to redirect, lifting his trajectory and spoiling his balance. In the same fluid motion, Goku's other arm hooked Superman's overextended limb, and he accelerated the charge. Adding a ruthless spinning torque, Superman became a helpless pinwheel. His own power turned against him. The finale was applied physics as Superman spun past. Goku's legs swept out in a low arc, catching Clark behind the knees with a surgical timing. The forces synergized velocity, gravity, leverage into one catastrophic result. Superman was projected earthward. He slammed into the ground with a deep boom that shook the bedrock, a new crater erupting around him. He lay stunned, not by pain, but by the elegant effectiveness of the counter itself. It required no massive energy, only a flawless fight IQ and an understanding of kinetics that made raw strength look clumsy. Goku stood over the crater's edge, looking down in his eyes. The Phantom Frieza was slowly rising, his armor scuffed. His smirk was finally gone. A low, satisfied sound rumbled in Goku's chest. He had downed the tyrant. The fear whispered the next step, which was to finish it. The crater exhaled dust as Superman rose unharmed. Tactical reassessment was instantaneous. Grappling was impossible. His brother's skill was quite the labyrinth. The equation was now brutal and simple. The immutable, impenetrable Kryptonian force against an adaptive Saiyan martial artist, trained in many martial arts. Goku sank into a low stance. The Phantom Frieza before him smirked, unfazed by the rubble he climbed out of. Then they converged. The space between them vanished. What followed were not flurries, but deliberate earth-shattering collisions. Superman fought with the devastating simplicity of a force of nature. Each punch carried continental weight designed to crush any defense through pure power. The air ruptured with every swing. Goku was the whirlwind around the stone. He parried world-ending hooks with circular deflections, redirecting their energy into the ground, which erupted in new fissures. He slipped under jabs that could pierce armor. His counters were precise stings, a strike to a nerve cluster, a need to disrupt balance, systematically dismantling Superman's offensive structure. It was a perfect violent impasse. Strength met skill, and neither gave ground. The climax broke with brutal symmetry, seeing a fractional opening. Superman committed to a titanic right hand meant to end the contest. At the same instant, Goku, reading the commitment, planted his feet and unleashed his own devastating straight punch, a perfect palm heel strike. Their fists did not collide. Superman's hammer blow connected with Goku's jaw. The impact was a catastrophe. Goku's head snapped back and he rocketed skyward, vanishing into the upper atmosphere with a sonic boom. In the same nanosecond, Goku's palm heel drove into Superman's chest. It carried not raw force, but perfect connected focus. Perfect concentrated focus. All of Superman's own momentum, combined with Goku's counter thrust, was channeling him downward. With a deep "Koom," Superman was driven through the crust. He disappeared into a perfectly human-shaped shaft plunged dozens of feet into bedrock. A shockwave rippled out, flattening everything in a final circle. Silence and settling dust remained. The battle had ended, not with a victor, but with a catastrophic simultaneous negation. One warrior cast into the heavens, the other buried in the deep, dark earth beneath. From the shadow of a shattered overpass, Batman emerged, his voice cutting through the settling dust. Clark. Superman, kneeling in the crater of his impact, didn't turn, his hearing tracking Goku's roaring descent back from the atmosphere. The toxin hijacks the senses, Batman stated, pure analysis. His entire nervous system believes it's under attack. His reactions are genuine combat reflexes. A slight nod from Superman acknowledged the truth he'd seen in Goku's panicked physiology. His delusions, though, have a flaw. It has a flaw, Batman continued. It's a reactive script. You can't reason with it, but you can exploit its own logic. Create an environmental variable his phantom wouldn't produce. Something dramatic and external. He gestured to the ravaged dockyard that they were by. The flooded pits, unstable ground. His mind will have to process it. For a split second, his focus will fracture. The phantom will falter. That is your window. Not to talk, but to put an end to this. The analytical coldness was jarring, but it was the only key to Superman's jaw tightened. He wasn't fighting his brother, he was hacking a terrifying program. Above Goku pierced the clouds, a meteor of rage. Superman rose, his eyes now calculating, scanning the battlefield. For the perfect piece of shattered world to weaponize, Batman's words had reframed everything. Goku descended like a vengeful comet, his focus locked on the smirking phantom of Frieza below. Every instinct screamed for a final, obliterating strike. Superman did not brace for impact. Instead, he dropped low and slammed his fist into the earth. The blow sent a subterranean pulse through the ruined dockyard, not lifting the debris, but agitating it. The ground billowed, a colossal expanding ring of dust and particulate exploded upward, a tidal wave of gray that swallowed the battlefield instantly. It was a choking, blinding smog thick enough to blot out the sky around them. To Goku plunging into the cloud at hypersonic speed, the world itself had transformed. The gray became the void, Frieza's final cowardly trick. The gritty taste was a foreign atmosphere, the roaring air, the shriek of failing engines. His senses flared wildly, seeing a million swirling particles, creating a blinding fog clutter. He was lost, blind and trapped in debris smog. In that moment of total sensory chaos, the real attack came, not from the fog, but through it. The attack came from the fog, not Frieza, but a blur of indigo and crimson. Superman struck from the side, his forearm like a steel beam slamming across Goku's chest. Arresting his spin with relentless pressure, he drove them both downward through the dust cloud and into the largest coastal crater. Superman pinned him against the cold, wet earth as Goku roared, his aura flaring, but Superman's grip was immovable. "I'm sorry, Goku," Superman whispered, the words lost to the chaos. Then he inhaled deeply and exhaled in concentrated azure torrent. The frost bath enveloped the crater, not to destroy, but to subdue. Superheated steam from Goku's body met the glacial blast and solidified into a frozen-like mist. Pooling water crackled into milky ice, cementing his boots. A sparkling frost coated his gi and skin. The cold delivered a systematic shock. The fear toxin's chemical fire met a violent slowdown. Goku's overheated metabolism, his race panic, was forced to relent. The world of phantoms and rage grew distant. Muffled under a blanket of numbness, his struggles weakened. His bellows became shuddering gasps that plumed white in the sudden Arctic silence. Superman held him there, encasing in freezing earth, watching the fire in his brother's eyes gutter into shivering confusion. The frost was buying time, leeching the fury moment by an agonizing moment, forcing a tortured body and mind to finally cool down. The crater was now a shallow glacier, and at its heart stood Goku, encased in a shell of frozen key steam. His furious aura was gone, replaced by a dull, trapped glow. Only the faint white cloud of his breath showed that he lived. Superman landed at the edge, wary in a way of battle wary in a way battle rarely made him. His cape was heavy with dust and ice. He had not fought a villain, he had fought his own family. Batman emerged from the ruins to stand beside him. The silence was heavy, but not hostile. "It's over," Superman said, his voice hoarse. It was a hope, not a statement. "For now," Batman replied, his analyzer scanning the frozen form. After a moment, he spoke again, without turning. "You did what had to be done." Superman nodded slowly. "I still hate it." "I know." Batman's next words were stark and sincere. "Thanks, Clark." Clark finally glanced at him. The gratitude wasn't for the victory, but for the bearing weight, for being the anvil against which their brother's hammer had to go against. Together they looked down at the third most unorthodox member of their league, temporarily subdued in ice. The storm had passed, the toxin's fury was freezing out. In the brutal quiet, they allowed themselves a single shaky breath of relief, believing the worst was finally over. Now the long thaw could begin. Yeah, man, that'll be the end of this episode. Hopefully it recorded right this time. I shortened the pacing. I shortened the words, all right, because it was 35 minutes the last two times, so I deleted some words. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Funnily enough, I actually had a two-parter to this, but I ended up scrapping it. That somebody actually predicted in my comments. I had a two-parter plan where Goku was going to break through the ice and unlock False Super Saiyan, but I decided to scrap that just so we can move on with the story. So anyways, man, hope you guys liked it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, become a member. Super chats are open, and hit the hype button if you are watching this on your phone. Anyways, I'm out. Peace.